My name is Aza, and I was 15 years old at the time that this occurred. I've never been a strong believer in the paranormal, until that one fateful visit to my Aunt Mary's house. It was a small, creaky old place on the outskirts of town where she lived. I hadn't seen her in years, so I was excited to catch up. Little did I know, this visit would turn into a living nightmare. One Thursday evening, during my summer break, my mom told me that we had to go visit my aunt the next day and that we should be staying at her house for a few days. I was excited because I liked Aunt Mary, so I thought it would be a fun trip. I packed my clothes before going to bed, and the next day, we set off on our journey. Aunt Mary lived in a different city, so we had to travel for 5 hours to reach her house. I passed the time listening to music, and before I knew it, we had arrived. Although I was starting to feel a bit carsick. As soon as I stepped through the front door, an eerie chill ran down my back. The air felt heavy, as if something dark was lurking around inside of that house. I tried to dismiss it as nerves, blaming my overactive imagination. Aunt Mary greeted me with a tight smile, but her eyes held a hint of sadness that I couldn't ignore. As I went to bed that night, strange things began happening. I woke up to the sound of whispering voices outside my room. I tiptoed out to investigate, but the hallway was empty. A cold draft sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, even when I was alone. When I returned to bed, I had a constant feeling of someone watching me. I glanced around the room, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw a shadowy figure, but it vanished before I could be sure. I couldn't tell if it was real or if my mind was playing tricks on me. The next morning, Aunt Mary seemed distant and pale. I asked her about the strange occurrences, but she brushed them off, claiming it was just an old house settling. But deep down, I knew there was something more sinister at play. There was an unexplainable darkness lurking within those walls. Things took a turn for the worse as the days went on. Objects moved on their own. Shadows danced across the walls. And eerie laughter echoed through empty rooms. I couldn't sleep, haunted by nightmares of an unknown presence closing in on me. One night, unable to bear the torment any longer, I ventured into Aunt Mary's study. The room was filled with ancient books and mysterious artifacts. As I rummaged through the dusty shelves, my heart skipped a beat when I discovered a worn-out diary. I flipped through its pages, my eyes widening in horror as I read Aunt Mary's desperate pleas for help. She had been cursed by someone using black magic, and the curse was slowly consuming her soul. The more I read, the more the pieces fell into place. The supernatural activities were a direct result of this curse. Determined to save my aunt, I sought the help of a local paranormal investigator. He agreed to perform a cleansing ritual to break the curse. We gathered in the living room, surrounded by candles and symbols drawn on the floor. As the ritual commenced, the atmosphere grew tense. Aunt Mary's face contorted in agony as she screamed, her body writhing with unseen forces. The investigator fought against the darkness, his voice booming with authority. I held my breath, praying for a miracle. But it was too late. The curse had taken hold, consuming Aunt Mary completely. Her body went limp, her eyes empty and lifeless. The room fell silent, except for my sobs echoing through the stillness. That night, I left Aunt Mary's house. Sometimes, in the dead of night when I'm in my bed, I hear Aunt Mary's voice, whispering from the shadows. It's a chilling reminder of the curse that stole her life. I can't help but wonder if the curse will find its way to me one day, as a vengeful reminder of the horrors I encountered.
The night shift. Working as a small guard on the night shift was never my idea of an exciting job, but it paid the bills. Little did I know that one fateful night would plunge me into a world of terror and the supernatural. My name is David, and I'm 25 years old. I've been working as a guard for the past 3 years, and I enjoy this job. I shifted from different shops, stores, and malls over the past 3 years. I always prefer to take a night shift as it's easier, and the place is mostly empty and peaceful. I shifted my job a week ago and started working as a security guard in a mall. I was assigned to take the night shift. One night, I was working on my shift. I reached the mall at exactly 10 p.m. and started roaming around, checking from shop to shop. As the clock struck midnight, the mall fell into a haunting silence. The emptiness weighed heavy on my shoulders, making each step echo through the dimly lit corridors. My nerves were on edge, a constant unease settling in the pit of my stomach. It started with small things, subtle hints that something was wrong, flickering lights, distant whispers, and the sensation of being watched. I brushed them off, attributing them to the eerie atmosphere of the night. But as the minutes ticked by, the encounters grew more sinister. I remember the first truly chilling moment vividly. I was patrolling the deserted halls when a cold gust of wind whipped through, rustling the papers on a nearby information desk. My heart raced as I approached, expecting to find an open window or a malfunctioning air conditioning system. To my horror, everything seemed intact. That icy chill settled deeper, wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. From that point on, the encounters escalated. Unsettling whispers followed me from store to store, as if unseen entities reveled in tormenting me. I could no longer deny that something supernatural was at play. I didn't believe in supernatural things and thought that they were just in movies and TV series. But when I witnessed them myself, I knew it right away. With trembling hands, I checked my watch, praying for the night to end. Each minute seemed to stretch into an eternity. My mind plagued with morbid thoughts. Would I make it through this night alive? Or would I become a victim of the otherworldly forces that prowl the mall's darkness? Time crawled on, refusing to release its grip. The oppressive atmosphere thickened, pressing against me like an invisible force. I felt as though I was being herded toward an unknown fate, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. Suddenly, a blood-curdling shriek pierced the air. My heart leaped into my throat as I traced the source to a dimly lit corridor ahead. Summoning every ounce of courage, I crept closer, my footsteps muffled by a growing sense of dread. What I witnessed in that dim corridor will forever haunt my nightmares. A figure, ethereal and twisted, emerged from the shadows. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity, and its malevolent grin sent shivers down my body. Frozen in terror, I watched as it advanced toward me, its steps devoid of any sound. At that moment, survival became my sole instinct. My legs carried me in a desperate sprint, my heart pounding in my ears. I raced towards the entrance, knowing that daylight was my only hope for salvation. As I burst through the doors, gasping for breath, the first rays of dawn painted the sky in a gentle glow. The mall lay silent behind me, its secrets locked away until the next night. I collapsed onto the pavement, grateful to have escaped the clutches of the paranormal. That night changed me forever. I resigned immediately, vowing never to return to that haunted mall. Its horrors left an indelible mark, making me prefer morning shifts despite their hectic nature. The darkness of the night now holds an aversion I can't shake.
Traveling has always been my passion, but not just any kind of travel. My name is Emily, and I'm a travel blogger with a unique focus: the paranormal. My trips took me across the United States, exploring haunted locales and ghostly legends that chilled the bravest hearts. On this particular journey, I found myself in New Orleans, a city renowned for its spectral lore. I'd booked a room at the infamous Hotel Monteleone, a place known more for its spectral sightings than its luxury amenities. The moment the bellboy uttered the words room 313, a shiver shot down my spine. The chill had nothing to do with the overworked air conditioning. I knew room 313 had a reputation. It was rumored to be haunted by a former guest who died under mysterious circumstances. A wave of unease washed over me as I crossed the threshold into the room. The room felt cold, colder than the rest of the hotel, as if the air carried a melancholy story of the past. I shrugged off the eerie feeling, attributing it to the rumors I had let invade my mind. Night fell, and with it came an array of peculiar happenings. I couldn't ignore the soft whispers floating through the room. They were like strands of a conversation just out of my grasp. The temperature in the room fluctuated wildly. One moment, chill, and the next, uncomfortably warm. I could feel the prickle of unseen eyes on me, a sensation that made my skin crawl. I brushed it all off as my imagination ran wild, feeding off of the ghost stories I had been gorging on. A knock at my door shattered the peace of the night. Peering through the peephole, I found the hallway ominously empty. The mystery deepened when the phone on the bedside table rang, jarring me from my confused thoughts. The caller, a man with a chillingly calm voice, insisted I hadn't paid for my room and that I needed to come down to the lobby. I hung up abruptly, knowing well that I had cleared my dues at check-in. The calls didn't stop, though. They continued, growing insistent, threatening, and progressively eerie. The voice on the other end of the line felt like an icy hand clutching at my heart, instilling an undeniable fear that I hadn't felt before. Despite my passion for the paranormal, I was, after all, a human susceptible to fear, and anxiety was what I felt in that room. The decision to leave came abruptly. Another knock echoed in my room, softer this time, almost hesitant. My heart pounded in my chest, and I swallowed hard before moving towards the door. I peered through the peephole once again, and this time, I saw a shadowy figure standing in the hallway. I could hardly make out any features, but its presence outside my room was undeniable and terrifying. That was the final straw. In a state of panic, I gathered my belongings and bolted out of the room. The hallway was eerily silent, with the only sound being the frantic thudding of my own heart. As I rushed towards the elevator, I felt a cold hand brush against my arm. I whipped around, but there was no one there. The feeling of being followed pursued me all the way down the hall, and didn't fade until I was far from the confines of room 313. Once my breathing had returned to normal and the terror had lessened, I learned the chilling truth from the hotel staff. They shared tales of numerous unexplained phenomena associated with room 313. Guests had reported similar experiences, which all tied back to the unfortunate man who had died there under mysterious circumstances. They said that his spirit was not at peace and tended to harass the room's occupants. My encounter at the Hotel Monteleone shifted something within me. My perspective on the supernatural, which had been a source of intrigue and adrenaline, was now tinged with a newfound understanding of its fearsome power. There was an undercurrent of dread and respect that hadn't been there before. I didn't stop traveling, though. The road was my home, and the myriad unexplored locales were a siren song I couldn't ignore. But there was a change in how I approached my trips. I was more cautious now, more attuned to the unseen.